August 2nd, 1937, the United States signed the Marijuana Tax Act into law. But this story isn't so much about a plant, it's about consciousness. If you enjoy my daily history tidbits, please like, share, and follow. The Marijuana Tax Act was championed by Henry Anslinger and the newly formed Federal Bureau of Narcotics, who, with zero evidence, warned that cannabis led to violence, insanity, and moral collapse. The Marijuana Tax Act did not technically outlaw cannabis. Instead, it required anyone growing, distributing, or prescribing it to register and pay an exorbitant tax. Failure to comply resulted in severe federal criminal penalties. Behind Anslinger stood powerful allies. William Randolph Hearst, whose newspaper empire ran sensational, fear-driven headlines about marijuana, and the DuPont family, whose emerging synthetic materials business gave them a financial stake in seeing hemp's competition eliminated. Historians still debate exactly how coordinated this really was. DuPont has always denied it, but the alliance between media, industry, and law enforcement was a real force that shaped the story that America was told. Newspapers printed terrifying stories. Politicians repeated alarming claims. Law enforcement agencies carried the message into every American town. Fear spread faster than facts, as does xenophobic rhetoric. Meanwhile, the medical community was largely blindsided by the bill because the government used the slang term marijuana instead of the standard medical term cannabis sativa. Many doctors did not realize the bill targeted a medicine they routinely prescribed, and so the American Medical Association pushed back, arguing that there was no actual scientific or medical data behind the panic, warning the law would make real medical research nearly impossible. They noted that the Bureau's claims were built entirely on newspaper clippings and argued that cannabis was a valuable medicine used in treating pain, insomnia, and psychological disorders. The tarot card for the institutions backing the Marijuana Tax Act in this story would be the Hierophant. The Hierophant represents establishment, tradition, and the authority to declare what is acceptable and what is forbidden. In 1937, that authority sat with a newspaper baron, a chemical company, and a federal bureau, deciding together which plant and which state of mind America was allowed to have. From a metaphysical perspective, this raises a bigger question. Why have so many cultures throughout history feared altered states of consciousness? Through meditation, trance work, sacred herbs, ritual, mystical vision, people have always sought ways to step outside ordinary awareness and touch something larger than themselves. The tarot card for that deeper fear would be the moon. The moon rules illusion, the unknown, and the subconscious. Everything churning beneath the surface of what we're told is true. In 1937, fear was the fog. The real story was buried underneath it. The Marijuana Tax Act became one chapter in a much older story. Less a debate about a plant, and more a debate about perception, experience, and who gets to decide how reality should be explored. So while on this day in 1937 the law was signed, behind it sits a question humanity is still wrestling with. What happens when people begin to see the world differently? Surround yourself with clarity, not fear, and keep asking the questions they'd rather you didn't. Stay classy, moonflowers.